bottom there is option record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it started. Recording it started.
Okay. Yeah, it started. I think. Yeah, it's recording, sir.
Yeah, fine. Chalo, let
Welcome
us
to
start.
M4 PG, ma'am, and thanks for your time, valuable time, ma'am. And sorry for the delay.
Good evening, everybody. Myself, Dr. Rupasri from Hyderabad. I'm OBG consultant. Today, I'm going to discuss about a small topic that is hierarchy formula, and it is also an important topic that we can expect almost 1 to 2 questions every year. Okay, hierarchy for mole. See, hierarchy for mole, it is an abnormal condition of the placenta. Before knowing the abnormal condition, let's see what is a normal placenta. See, this is a normal placenta. What I'm showing is a normal placenta. See, it is the maternal surface of the placenta because see the cotyledons and also the shaggy surface of the placenta. Next, see, this is the uterus. Let's see the placenta in the uterus. See, it is the fundal region of the uterus and the placenta is attached to the anterior surface of the uterus. When we section the uterus and see it, these are the chorionic villi. See, this is the chorionic villi, a segment of the placenta which consists of the maternal and the fetal vessels. Next, when we observe one of the chorionic villi, see, there is a trophoblastic proliferation along with the cells. And when this is the condition that is, see, here there is partly trophoblastic proliferation. That is a proliferation of the syncytial trophoblast and the cytotrophoblast along with the degeneration of the hydropic changes. That is, degeneration is mostly because of the accumulation of the fluid. There is partly hydropic degeneration along with partly degeneration of the trophoblastic cells. Because of these two conditions, it results in the formation of a cluster of small cysts known as hydatid cyst. And so it is known as hydatiform mole. Okay. See, this is the abnormal placenta, that is hydatiform mole with a grape-like vesicles. Okay. See, these are the small grape-like vesicles which gelatinous fluid. See, what is the most important cause of this placenta? Let's see, which is the cytological abnormality. Because in case of normal conception, the sperm consists of 23 eggs and the egg consists of 23 eggs. When the fusion of the sperm with the egg takes place, it results in the formation of a zygote of 46 XX. Okay. So it results in normal pregnancy and normal placenta. But some other conditions, like what happens is the sperm which is of 23 eggs fuses with the egg which is inactive. There is no nucleus within the egg. Therefore, the haploid sperm which fuses with the inactive egg and it undergoes meiotic division and results in the formation of 46 XX. Since the chromosomes are only from the haploid sperm, it is also known as paternal type or the androgenesis, and it is a complete mole. See the complete mole here. This is a complete placenta which is changing into the hydatiform mole. But here only the sperms are involved. There is no egg. Therefore, there is no formation of the fetus. Okay. This is a complete mole. When the other condition also exists, like, see, what happens is, here only one of the haploid sperm is present which is fusing the inactive egg. Sometimes there may be two sperms, that is 23X and 23Y, which fuses with the egg of 23X. It results in a triploid condition of 69XXY. Because of the involvement of the sperm and the egg, there results the formation of the fetus. See, here it is a partial mole which consists of the fetus along with the degenerative placenta is present. Okay, but it is completely different from that of the complete mole. Here the MCQs mostly ask that, depending upon the condition, complete mole, that is androgenesis or of paternal origin are the two questions, and also the triploid will be the questions present here. Now let us see the differences between the complete mole and the partial mole. As I said before, only because of the presence of the haploid sperm and the inactive egg, there is no embryo or the fetus. This is the most important question which is always asked in the MCQs. And apart from this, when we take the partial mole, because of the involvement of the sperms and the egg, it results in the formation of the embryo and the fetus. And other difference is, see, this is the chorionic villi. See the finger-like projections present in the chorionic villi, and this is the hydropic degeneration which is present inside. And there are trophoblastic proliferation of both the cytotrophoblast and syncytial trophoblast. This is a diffuse involvement involving complete chorionic villi. See, diffuse hydropic degeneration of the villi, stroma, blood vessels, and there is excessive proliferation of the trophoblastic cells. So this is a complete mole. But apart from this, when we see the partial mole, see, these are the proliferation of the trophoblastic cells, but there is no hydropic degeneration here. And in other cells, there may be hydropic degeneration. So only focal areas are involved. Some of the trophoblastic proliferation and other is the hydropic degeneration with the presence of some of the blood vessels and the fetus. Okay, this is the main difference between the complete mole and the partial mole. Let us see other which are the differences which are present between them. See, when we compare the normal uterus when compared to that of the complete mole, see, the size of the uterus is more when compared to that of the period of the amenorrhea. Let us see an example. That is, when we observe the uterus, it is about 16 weeks. Okay, 16 weeks means it is just below the umbilicus. But in case of complete mole or vesicular mole, what happens is there is accumulation of the vesicles inside and blood clots and also concealed blood. Therefore, when the normal uterus is of 16 weeks, the complete mole may be of 24 to 28 weeks. That is, it may present above the umbilicus. And with the normal pregnancy, when we compare the partial mole, it is also more when compared to that with complete mole. But a fetus is present here. Okay, so it may be also more than the normal pregnancy, but it is less in size when compared to that of the complete mole. Okay, other differences like there may be theca lutein cyst. What happens is in the uterus, see, when there is complete mole, there is raised hormone like human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG. Along with that, other hormones like estrogens, progesterones are also raised. See the number of follicles or the theca lutein cysts which are present in the ovaries. Theca lutein means it is present in the ovary. What happens is because of the raised hormones, see the number of follicles which are present in only the ovaries. And this is the ultrasound image. See the size of the cyst or the follicle which are present in the ovary. After the complete moles or treatment has been taken for the complete mole, what happens is these follicles or the cyst gradually regress within 1 to 2 months. Okay. So this is also one of the most important questions, that bilateral theca lutein cyst may be present or resolved after treatment. So questions may be present regarding this also. Next is when we compare with that of the partial mole. See, these are also the theca lutein cysts which are present in the ovaries. But see, the size and the number is less when compared to that of the complete mole. See the ultrasound image. See this, the number of the size of the follicle is very big. But when compared to it, the size of the follicle is very less in case of partial mole. Okay, see, this is the structure. This is the structure of the beta HCG. That is, this is the alpha component and this is the beta component. If we take an example of normal pregnancy uterus of 16 weeks, the beta HCG levels will be of 13,000 to 25,000. But in case of complete mole, the beta HCG levels will be very high. That means it may be present from 50,000 to 1 lakh. But in case of partial mole, the beta HCG levels are more, but slightly less than the complete mole. That is, it may be up to 50,000. Okay. And the persistence of the disease in case of complete mole is nearly up to 20%. Means even after treatment, the continuation of the molar pregnancy may be up to 20%. But the risk of the persistence of the disease in case of partial mole is less than 5%. Okay. Next, apart from the cytological abnormality, let us see what are the other causes which are important for development of the molar pregnancy. That is, in obstetrics, always the age factor is very important. That is, the patient may be of teenage pregnancies, that is of less than 18 years, or it may be of greater than 35 years, that is an elderly pregnancy. Sometimes nutritional factors also contribute to the development of the molar pregnancy. That is, there may be inadequate intake of proteins, or sometimes there may be excess animal fat intake by the woman, or sometimes there is low dietary intake of carotene also. So these may be also important reasons, but not as important as that of cytological abnormality. And sometimes there may be disturbed maternal immune mechanisms. Means the patient when tested, there are raised gamma globulin levels, but this gamma globulin is one of the important hormones, that is of liver. So when we observe the liver histology by an ultrasound, The liver histology will be normal, but the blood levels will be showing the raised gamma globulin levels. Okay, so apart from cytological abnormality, age factor, nutrition factor, and also disturbed immune mechanisms of the mother is also very important. Okay, now let us see where the molar pregnancy is very common. The molar pregnancy is very most commonly seen at the Oriental countries. Oriental countries means countries like China, Japan, Hong Kong. These are situated here, including India and Philippines. So the highest is present in the Philippines, like 1:80. In every 80 pregnancies, one may result in the molar pregnancy. In case of India, it is about 1:400. In every 400 pregnancies, there may be resulting of one molar pregnancy. Okay, now we know about what is hydatiform mole. Okay, the differences between the complete mole, partial mole. Okay, now let's come out with clinical features. The patient comes to the hospital with the symptoms like bleeding. It means bleeding. It is similar to that of the miscarriage. See, what happens is, this is the placenta. It has changed into grape-like hydatid cyst. What happens is, the hydatid cysts which are present in the process of the expulsion get ruptured. These follicles consist of the fluid which is similar to that of the edematous fluid and also the ascitic fluid which is whitish in color. Because of the rupture of the grape-like vesicles, that is the gelatinous fluid which is in white color mixed with the red colored blood. So the patient complains of white current in the red current juice. This is the most important symptom which is produced by the patient and also the most important MCQ which is asked. Okay. See this picture, this is the placenta and these are the small grape like this. When these get ruptured, this white color blood is mixed with the red color blood. So it is the white current in the red current juice. Okay. And next is patient complains of lower abdominal pain. Why there is abdominal pain for the patient? This is the uterus consists of vesicles, concealed blood, blood clots. For accumulation of these, the uterus goes on stretching. Sometimes because of the overstretching, what happens at the point of the weakness, what happens is it gets ruptured or perforated. Okay, because of this perforation, the patient will complain of pain, and also the uterus in the process of expulsion also it produces some of the uterine contractions. So patient complains of abdominal pain because of the overstretching of the uterus and also the perforation of the uterus. Okay, now the beta HCG is high. What happens is it results in excess of the nausea and vomiting. Sometimes the HCG has two components, that's the alpha component and the beta component. This alpha component is similar to that of the FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone. So what happens is because of the chorionic thyroid rise level, it results in some of the features like thyrotoxic features like tremors and tachycardia. Okay, see, because of the rupture of the uterus, what happens? The vesicles which are present inside the uterine cavity tend to ascend up through the bloodstream into the lungs. So the most common site of metastasis in case of molar pregnancy is to the lung. This is also one of the most important questions. See, this means let us see. This is the site of weakest point of the uterus. So the follicles which are present in the uterine cavity tend to move up by the bloodstream. So what happens? The patient complains of breathlessness. Okay, and because of pulmonary embolization. Embolization means movement of the vesicles which are present in the uterine cavity through the bloodstream to the lungs. Okay, and next is most important is expulsion of grape-like vesicles per vaginum. Patient will be saying that something whitish fluid is coming from the vaginal cavity. That is because of the rupture of this hydatid cyst. Okay, the gelatinous fluid, and see, these are the vesicles. It is the most clinical symptom we observe when the patient is complaining of molar pregnancy. Next, what happened? The patient now came with the symptoms. Okay, now we have to examine her. We should know what to do. That is examination. That is parabdominal examination. See, normally it should be, if you take an example of 16 weeks, it should be below the uterus. Okay, below the umbilicus. But here it is more than that. So it may be an example of hydatiform mole or the molar pregnancy. Normally what happens is because of the accumulation of vesicles, blood clots, concealed blood, maximum in 70% of the cases, the uterine size is more when corresponding to the period of amenorrhea. But what happens is sometimes the patient will not have any follow-up or checkups regarding the obstetric condition, and suddenly she will be expelling some of the products at the home itself. So when she comes to the hospital or when the clinical examination is going on, the uterus size may be equal to or uterus size may be less when compared to that of the period of amenorrhea in almost 10 to 20% of the cases. Okay. Now, when you are examining the patient, the feel of the uterus in case of a pregnant uterus is it will be very soft. But here, the amniotic fluid or the amniotic sac, the cushion-like substance which is present in the uterine cavity is absent. Therefore, the feel of the uterus will be firm. Fetal parts are not felt because there is no fetus, no fetal parts and no fetal heart sounds. Okay, this is the perabdominal examination. Next, after perabdominal, we should go for pervaginal examination. That is, see, grape-like vesicles in the vaginal discharge. See, the image I am showing now, this is all the products or the contents which are expelled out. I am showing you the particularly the partial mole. See the fetus in between the vesicles. Okay, it is a partial mole image. Okay, and next is after doing the pervaginal examination, when we observe the ovaries, there may be unilateral or either bilateral enlargement of the ovaries. That is the theca lutein cyst. I have already discussed regarding it. After the treatment has completed, these moles will be decreased by themselves. Next, now the patient has done all the investigations, treatment, everything will be informed to the patient. What is this investigation? First, what you will do, that is a complete blood picture because the patient is already bleeding. She is in a hypovolemic state. So the amount of hemoglobin should be estimated. So the first and the foremost investigation you should be doing is hemoglobin level. And next is the patient may be Rh negative also. If it is a first pregnancy, the next pregnancy will be affected because of the isoimmunization. So blood grouping and typing should be done to the patient. Okay. Next is thyroid function test. As I have already said that alpha component is similar to that of the thyroid stimulating hormone. So we have to check to prevent the conditions like tremors, tachycardia, palpitations. So we should do thyroid function test and also liver function test to know all the enzyme levels which are useful for giving general anesthesia to the patient also. Next, the patient is bleeding in hypovolemic condition. So blood urea, serum creatine, electrolyte cell levels should also be done. That is the renal function test should be done. Now, these are all the blood investigations which will be helpful for the patient. But one of the confirmatory or the important diagnostic tests which help in molar pregnancy is ultrasound examination. That is a snowstorm pattern. Means, see, in the uterine cavity, these are the vesicles which consist of the gelatinous fluid. Like a shiny appearance, these will be seen on the ultrasound. That is like a heterogeneous opacity. See, here the storm particles. Snow is deposited everywhere, just like. So, similar to this image, it is described as snowstorm appearance inside the uterine cavity. And the other important test which is helpful is the beta HCG level. From the starting, we are saying that beta HCG quantitative estimation is very much important. Normally in questions in MCQs also, they will be asking which is a hormone which is helpful for prognosis of the molar pregnancy is beta HCG. Okay. To know the metastasis, that if the patient complains of any breathlessness, dyspnea, hemoptysis, chest X-ray should be done. Okay. Last is after the treatment, after sucking of all the moles, okay, what should be done? It is a confirmation should be done, whether it is a molar pregnancy or any other carcinomatous tissue. Therefore, histopathological examination is an important investigation after the treatment has been completed. Now, so treatment. Okay. So you have seen all the symptoms, signs, and investigations. Now the last is you should counsel the patient regarding the condition and the treatment should be taken place. What you will do directly, you will not take the patient to OTINA, but supportive treatment should be given because the patient is bleeding. She is in hypovolemic condition. So give her IV fluids. Okay. Then antibiotics because she may be in sepsis. And later on blood transfusion if her hemoglobin level is less than 7. Next, dilatation curettage means there may be two kinds of patients. That group A may be the os may be dilated at home itself and some of the products may be start expelling while the patient may be coming to the hospital. Therefore, in that case, just normal dilatation and the curetting should be done. See, this is the uterine cavity. Okay, this is a speculum by which we are seeing the cavity. See, there is an abnormal tissue within the cavity. Okay, next. See, this is the dilators. Normally we say Hagas dilators, which are very useful for dilating the cervical os. Okay, we'll do dilation by this. Next, See, this is the curate. We are curating the products out. We are sucking the moles. That is, we are curating the products, and this is the abnormal tissue we are collecting and sending for the histopathological examination. Just I have shown you the images of the dilatation and curettage. And next important is suction evacuation. That is, what happens is, some patients, because of the ultrasound techniques, almost the disease can be found out, or the complication of the pregnancy can be seen earlier itself. So now we have to dilate the cervix. So what you'll do, keep a small tablet, that is the misoprostol, PGE1 of 400 micrograms should be placed in the pervaginal cavity 3 hours before surgery. Okay. So what is this? Hello? Hello? What is this? You have to suck everything which is present in the uterine cavity, and this process is known as suction evacuation. Okay. After dilatation, because of the negative pressure, all the moles should be sucked out. Okay. And next, after dilatation curettage, after suction evacuation, if these are not possible, because sometimes there may be high gravida pregnancy with which the woman may be of third gravida with 2 previous to cesarean sections. At that time, we cannot use any misoprostol tablet. So what happens? We should do hysterotomy. Hysterotomy means just give a small nick to the uterus and suck all the moles which are present in the uterine cavity. Okay, this is known as hysterotomy. It is similar to that of the cesarean section. After sucking all the moles, just suture the uterus as in type of cesarean section. Next is, if the patient has of age greater than 35, patient completed her family, okay, not interested in any menstrual functions or any reproductive functions, not willing for any follow-up. Other abnormalities are also present like fibroids or anything. Just counsel the patient for hysterectomy. After taking the consent, explaining everything. So this is a picture of the hysterectomy. So after removal of the uterus, this is the vaginal vault. Okay. Next, after all this, counseling for regular follow-up is much important. Then contraception should be given to the patient. In case of contraception, until the beta-HCGs become negative, just counsel her for barrier contraceptives. After the beta-HCGs has become negative, counsel her for oral contraceptive pills. This is the most important question, that which is a contraception which is avoided in case of molar pregnancy, that is intrauterine contraceptive device. Because in case of intrauterine contraceptive device, there will be irregular vaginal bleeding. Okay, patient may think that the bleeding may be because of the contraceptive device, but sometimes she may be suffering also from choriocarcinoma. So one device which is contraindicated is intrauterine contraceptive device. Next, follow-up. Follow-up is very important. Till the treatment, it is one part, but after that, follow-up is also much important. Suction evacuation or a dilatation and curettage are simple procedures, that is an OPD procedures. The patient may be discharged in the evening. So ask the patient for follow-up after 48 hours. For what? For checking the beta-HCG levels again. So it is the most important prognostic indicator in case of molar pregnancy. After 48 hours, after suction evacuation, check the beta-HCG levels. They should be decreased in the beta-HCG levels by less than 10%. Okay. Weekly monitoring of HCG levels should be done up to 4 to 6 weeks till they become normal. After that, monthly once for 6 months should be done. Okay, it is a normal process, and there may be decrease in the beta-HCG levels and also the molar pregnancy and its complications. But sometimes what happens is, there may be elevation of the HCG levels by greater than 10% over a period of 2 weeks. Means there is gradual increase in the beta-HCG levels. The levels will not decrease. And sometimes there may be plateauing or persistence of the beta-HCG levels beyond 6 months. Okay. And apart from this, histopathological examination, the products which we have sent after sucking the moles may be diagnosed as choriocarcinoma. Then the patient should be explained that she is of gestational trophoblastic neoplasm. Okay. Sometimes the patient may even come to the hospital or follow-up saying that she has some of the complaints again, same repeated complaints like abdominal pain, unnecessary vaginal bleeding, breathlessness, tremors, tachycardia. Then she should be again investigated that whether the patient has gone for any choriocarcinoma chances. Okay. Because of any evidence of any metastasis, then prophylactic chemotherapy should be given. In case of prophylactic chemotherapy, the drugs used are methotrexate, that is 1 milligram per kg body weight. Okay. On days 1, 3, 5, 7. This methotrexate is an anti-metabolite or antifolate. Okay. So what happens is, to decrease the side effects of this methotrexate, folinic acid, one of the form of folic acid only, but it is more potent when it comes to that of the folic acid. Therefore, folinic acid of 0.1 milligram per kg body weight on days 2, 4, 6, 8 should be given to the patient. Okay. So we should should see whether their HCG levels are decreasing or not. If they are decreasing, after they are decreasing, 3 such cycles should be given. Same regimen should be followed for 3 such cycles with a gap of 1 week. Okay. Next, see complications. If the patient is not diagnosed as molar pregnancy, most of the patient will not be having regular obstetric checkups. So what happens? She may land up in some of the complications like hemorrhage or shock. Why I'm saying hemorrhage? Because the patient will be bleeding. While the bleeding is taken place, the moles or the moles, vesicle moles which are attached to the uterine cavity tend to tear or rupture the vessels which are attached to it. What happens is it leads to the collection of the old blood clots, and also concealed blood may also be present. And sometimes some of the iatrogenic conditions, like what happens is when we are dilating or suctioning or just curating the product, because of the softness of the uterus, we may just perforate the uterus. Therefore, at that time also, patient may bleed heavily in the OT and she may go into shock. Next is sepsis. Sepsis, why? Because normally the vaginal cavity consists of the organisms. You all know that. What happens is, because of the presence of the old blood clots and concealed hemorrhage, the organisms which are present in the vaginal cavity tend to ascend up, tend to creep up, because the blood clots which are present in the uterine cavity form a good culture medium for the development of the organism. So the patient may land up in sepsis. Next is the perforation of uterus. As I already said that to accumulate all these vesicles, moles, blood clots, concealed blood, the uterus starts expanding. At the weakest point, what happens? The rupture of the uterus takes place, and these moles which are present inside the cavity tend to enter into the bloodstream and then get first metastasized to the lungs, leading to the breathlessness, cough, hemoptysis. That is already I have discussed, that is pulmonary insufficiency. Again, same. What happens because of the rupture? These moles enter into the bloodstream and lead to the deposition of the fibrin and lead to the addition of the platelets, leading to the coagulation failure. That the mother may be leading in disseminated intravascular coagulation. And the last is development of the choriocarcinoma if the patient is not diagnosed. Okay. So this is a small topic, but very important topic. I thank the organizers and also the students who have been patient listening to me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for your nice and interactive session and the slide with pictures as well as the clinical case. It was a very nice one. So if any participant is having any doubts, can ask to madam or can raise hand. I will be unmuting them and you can ask to madam. Also, madam is having, madam, do you have any Telegram group?
No, only WhatsApp I'm having.
Okay, madam, WhatsApp. Okay, you can, I will be giving ma'am's email ID, or if Telegram group is there, I can provide search Telegram group, Pranit search Telegram group. You can ask madam doubt.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Almost welcome. Okay.
Okay, if anyone is having can ask doubt, or I'll be ending the meeting. If anyone is having doubt, can raise the hand, or we can end the meeting. And if anyone want, or if anyone missed this session, or having want to download this session, I'll be providing in website, also in a link I'll be providing. Okay, madam.
We'll provide the notes, sir.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Then we can end this topic session.
Okay, Nigam. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the valuable time, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.